Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you, as always, by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about financial markets. It's always so much better to start these shows when the coins are having a great day. Obviously, Bitcoin at $88,000 per coin, ETH even touching 2,100 today. Obviously, altcoins as well, responding in kind. We got a lot to talk about. Everything's pretty much ripping. It is a Monday, but we are going to set the stage for a great week. Some of the things that we've been discussing here over the last few weeks, I think, are starting to come to fruition. But before we can start talking about that more in depth, obviously, you guys know me. I'm Tommy, also known as Snorlax. I'm joined by Jackus and, of course, Louie. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Like I said, welcome to Market Check. Before we can get too deep into talking about the market, talking about these green candles, not just in crypto, but also equities, right? Because the S&P and the NASDAQ both almost up 2% today. I'm going to ask if you guys can smash that like button. If you can't hit the like button on green days, then when can you? Right? When it's easy to hit the like button, you should be hitting the like button. But as I always say, we're going to cook for you nevertheless. We're going to have a great show for you all today. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the market. We are seeing a lot of strength really across the board, right? And it's Monday, so you never want to be too over exuberant the first day of the week, because very often we see mean reversion on Tuesday. But this is, I think, just kind of showing off something that we've been discussing here over the last week or so, which is that many altcoins, many assets are coming into levels where it makes sense to expect a bounce, right? And I think it's perfectly fine being split on whether or not this bounce is ultimately a complacency shoulder, or whether, you view it as the next bottom before a bull market leg higher. Obviously, that's a concept I'm sure we'll discuss throughout this show, throughout the course of the week. But yeah, we've been saying it makes sense to take shots at altcoins at risk at a lot of these levels, and we are seeing a corresponding bounce today. So I don't really think that should be all surprising. Even if we have mean reversion later this week, I am still probably at this point expecting higher prices throughout this week. I think that makes sense. Like I said, ETH is already up 4% on the day. On the week, Bitcoin up 2.5%. Solana up 7.5%. And I mean, I'm not necessarily a huge Solana bull here, but I would say in general, that's a pretty good sign of animal spirits rekindling. We're finally seeing some more, I would say a stronger bid come back on chain. It hasn't quite, it's not at a fervor, obviously, but I do think we are beginning to see signs of life reemerge on specific chains like BSC, like Base. And ironically, to a lesser extent, we're seeing some small spurts over in Solana. I have, I do find it funny how some people are calling Fartcoin a risk-on indicator. I don't know if I would call it a risk-on indicator, but I would say, we kind of highlighted the strength on Fartcoin. I think it was either last week or the week before. So the performance that we're seeing off these lows shouldn't exactly be totally surprising on it. I do think it's a good signal, right, that people are willing to take shots on these altcoins. And then, of course, over the weekend, for the first time, Trump mentioned his meme coin on Truth Social. Maybe that's a positive signal for altcoins as Trump has unlocks in April. But yeah, I don't want to ramble for too long to start the week. I am cautiously optimistic as far as our prospects here over the next week or so. Then we can obviously reassess as we get further on throughout this move. But I'd love to know what you guys are thinking in the markets, not just crypto, also equity markets as well. Like I said, we pretty much have green all across the board. So we love to see that. But how are we doing, guys? What are we seeing in the markets?
Go ahead, Jackus.
I was fine. I was just unlocking the mic as I was muted, and as it happens, I was talking to a muted mic. But anyways, I think we are seeing some nice bounces across the board. I do not think this is overly bullish just yet on its own, but I think this is the sign of a bottoming process that I will keep on repeating now, that I think we are in the phase of the bottoming process. Now, this bottoming process can last of a range. That's when we can go up on these bounces, and then we can revisit the lows easily, not going much lower, and that's what's called a bottoming process. And I think one meme sums it up really perfectly. Tommy was sending it to me before we started the show, and it's called a crab. So if you're familiar with Mumu and Bobo, you should be familiar with crab as well. And I think we are going to see some crab in the coming weeks. But I would also say I'm liking these bounces so far, because I think they are kind of, sign that the sell-off is coming to its end and the market is kind of running out of the sellers.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree here. We were at levels that made sense. We've pretty much seen down only on ETH and altcoins for over a month and a half, 2 months. Equities followed suit over the last couple of weeks, dropping pretty hard, pretty fast. And that's when everyone wants to get bearish. And, if you weren't bearish on it at the top and you want to get bearish when most alts and ETH are sitting at deep value prices for at least a mean reversion bounce, right? Then that's on you, right? That's on you. We've been pretty much getting people coming on this show for the past couple of weeks, just absolutely just talking crap, right? Talking crap, saying we don't know what we're talking about. We got a lot more lower to go. And, not looking like that today, is it? So, definitely got a lot of work to do, right? Definitely got a lot of work to do. Like Jack has said, nothing extraordinarily bullish at the moment, but we are seeing some signs of life finally, which we were well overdue for. So loving what I'm seeing across the board. S&P reclaiming some key levels that we lost on its 10% drop or correction over the last couple weeks. So that's a great sign of at least some short-term strength. You got Bitcoin continuing to climb that wall of worry. You got ETH finally starting to move. Sol finally bouncing a bit. And the beta plays are reacting as they should, right? Higher percentages off the lows. And I think we honestly continue to see things look squeezy off the lows until people either start capitulating or they start to FOMO and chase. Once we start to see some of that, then I would expect maybe some local pullbacks across the board. But I think we just continue to climb this wall of worry. And see alts kind of bring the pain to participants who wanted to get bearish at range lows, whether that's shorting, whether that's selling. And likely when you're at the extreme and you flip sentiment at the extremes, usually the market tends to bring pain to those people, right? So it's been painful to remain bullish over the last month or so, 2 months. But, that pendulum swings both ways. And I think we're going to start seeing the pendulum swing back the other way going to the next couple of weeks. And then we see. Then we reevaluate. We see where we're at. We see if alts, ETH, Bitcoin can hold on to these nice climbs off the lows. And we go from there. But in the meantime, I expect what we're seeing today to continue over the next week or so at a minimum.
I like the pendulum reference, Louis, because I especially agree on things like alt BTC. I've said this before, but how often is it in crypto that we just kind of see this 4.5 month trend completely like hardly interrupted, right? Obviously, we had downtrends since mid-December on most altcoins. Not totally different from what we saw in equity markets, but obviously altcoins on a risk-adjusted basis got smoked. At the same time, I like seeing these comments about hot air rises. I'd love to look at Fartcoin. If you could pull that chart up for me, Louis. I think it's a great representation of altcoin sentiment. I don't know if I would view it as like a risk on indicator like some people want to. But it's kind of like what you were just describing. People were getting very bearish into the low, and on a marginal basis, that bearishness had, I would say, decreasing returns. Right? You're forming that kind of low volatility bottom after a 90% drawdown on some of these on-chain coins. And now it's a slow curl up. I mean, that chart really does look very, very good.
That's beautiful, man.
It does. It looks so clean. If you're ever looking for like a textbook example of what a bottom should look like on altcoins, especially on-chain ones, I'd probably point you to this chart. Hot air rises. The pendulum will probably swing back both ways. And I think from my perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And I said this last week, in the coming weeks for alt BTC, some of these assets, like, you don't have to allocate or over allocate rather to altcoins to achieve some outside returns at this point, because they have gone down so much. Now, I don't want to dwell on the topic too much. I am still high time frame bearish on majors, just based on my positioning on equities, or kind of rather where equities are headed over the next like 3 to 6 months. But again, I think that it makes sense for alt BTC to bounce very strongly here, and I think there's a pretty substantial opportunity there, not just in things like Fartcoin, but we'll talk about some other altcoins as well. I really like Sonic. I've been mentioning that for a while. It's one of the first coins off the low. There are going to be altcoins that make new highs over the next few weeks, even if we are in a high time frame downtrend. And again, with that comes a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, Sonic's coming into a nice level here, where if you could pop these two resistances here, probably starts to run, at least back to the old all-time high. But yeah, that Fartcoin rounding bottom is just absolutely beautiful, man. I'm not specifically playing that one. I'm in the based Fartcoin, which has been showing great strength as well. But yeah, both are looking really good and looking like they want to lead off the lows. So hot air does in fact rise. But yeah, here's Sonic, like Tommy just mentioned. Not something I have positioned in personally, but might be interested in. You start breaking this, probably going to see a nice climb back to the old all-time highs. And again, just that new token launch playbook, right? So beautiful launch, pumps beautifully, after launching, slow, agonizing bleed back to the lows, but starts to round out and starts to climb that wall of worry back the other way. And likely, if it does, break this level I'm showing here, likely you're making new highs, right? That's what this playbook likes to do, especially for the successful projects, is pump off the launch, slow bleed down, and anyone who's buying at the lows is highly, highly rewarded. And likely this goes on the real run, right? This was just the test pump, right? And then you get the real pump, right? So seeing a lot of these setups on a lot of different tokens, right? Like we've seen Sui do this.
That has always been my comparison for Sonic is that it's replicating Sui. I don't even want to put a hopium fractal on, but if you just like zoom out at the Sui monthly, and just kind of like you just compare Sui since its inception to Sonic right now. Sonic's basically speed running Sui's same structure. Not to say that it's going to play out exactly the same, because these things are never the same. but there are a lot of structural similarities there, especially if we're looking for, yeah, I mean, that looks exactly like the Sonic chart that we were just looking at. There again, there's just, I think, so much opportunity in a lot of these altcoins, especially the ones that I think you can more reasonably bet on, or reasonably rather bet on attention being assigned to them over the next like 1 to 2 months.
Yeah.
Sui itself doesn't really look that great, but it
already doesn't look horrible, right? You kind of want to see these old all-time highs hold. So if it could hold here, you might go for another leg. Right? I bet if you pulled up Sol from last cycle, this is like the first pump out of Sol, pulled back like 60 to 70%, and then Sol went and did like a 10x. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Kind of reminds me of Sol. I know exactly where that reminds me of Sol. Kind of back in like, is that an 18-hour chart? Hold up. Man, I thought I was good. So,
like, I still have the fractal here too, but yeah,
it kind of looks like I feel like that move on Sol rather played out on Sui already.
Well, so this fractal I had down here. So when Sui was down here, I was painting this fractal for Sui, but when Sui was here, and then the Sui fractal played like this. But I mean, again, kind of a similar, right? Like from here to here. So we did like 800%. What did Sol do from here to here? Oh, like 500%. Okay, yeah. So maybe the big move did happen already. But kind of similar, right? This could be Sui now, Ryan on top, and then go for another leg. But yeah, I mean, it's at major support. So you want to see this hold if you're a bull on Sui for sure. But yeah, not something I'm looking to play.
Sui's just very bloated right now.
Yeah,
Not quite
I would
sure
agree.
what the FDV is. I know it peaked at like 34 billion FDV, which is kind of insane for a chain that will be nice today. Relatively doesn't do that much. But chains that do something, Louis, I know you caught the bottom of one in particular that has already moved like 20-25% off the lows. Hyperliquid, he knew exactly what I was talking about. I would say still very undervalued on a relative basis.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something we were buying in here. Up 40% off the lows, right? This is definitely has been a leader off the lows, right? Showing strength and just been like methodically stair-stepping, right? It looks great, right? Looks great. And this is one that if you're in the Discord, everyone knows I was saying anywhere in this green zone, you should be buying Hyperliquid, right? And again, it goes back to that like new token playbook, right? I see this time and time again. Right? Bullish launch. Nice run up, right? Everyone's bullish on hype here, right? Everyone loves hype. The next big thing. Then you get this, right? The slow, agonizing bleed. And even gave people hope in here, right? Trying to catch the next leg. And by the time you lose this, you come all the way down here. Anyone who got airdropped hype or anyone who was trying to catch the long on hype doesn't want to look at hype anymore, right? Because they tried multiple times up here, got shaken out or lost all their money trying to chase it on leverage. And now it comes all the way back to basically the origin, right, of the launch. And when you come back here on a token that you think is going to do well, right? None of the fundamentals changed on hype. It's a great exchange. I use it myself. This is where you want to buy hype, right? Like, where else are you going to go? Right? Especially if, this isn't like just some random like meme coin that someone launched out of their bedroom. Like, no, this is a legit project. So if it's coming into basically the origins of the launch, this is where you want to be a buyer, right? Your risk reward is extremely skewed to the upside as a buyer down here. And we're seeing that. And honestly, I'm surprised it's coming out this quick. Usually you get more of like a rounding, more chop, but like you slowly, grind to the upside and eventually come up. this is kind of quickly heading back to the upside. And I think we're going to see that for alts just because where we're at in the cycle. I don't think we have time for a lot of alts to go through multi-month accumulation periods, right? And I think that's what a lot of people were waiting for, right? After this big capitulation, everyone's like, well, we'll probably have months. I could take a break, come back in a couple months, and scoop up some alt at cheap prices. Where I'm kind of more in the camp is like, we need to bounce quick, and we likely head back to the upside pretty quickly, right? And so that's why I've been pounding the table on looking for opportunities over the last couple of weeks to be a buyer with whatever you have left, right? And that's what I did. So yeah, hype looking really good off the lows, and there's pretty much nothing but air until you get to 19, right? So you want to see 19 flipped into support. Obviously, you probably see initial rejection, right? But as long as you can hold the high ground and go for another attempt, you start flipping 19. You're likely coming back to the old all-time highs at a minimum, right? And then we see. Yeah,
I think my read on hype is if it can flip that horizontal you've got drawn, then I think new highs are on the table. I haven't myself really had enough confidence to be able to buy into it, which is ironic because I always joke I'm perpetually long hype because of how much I use the exchange, but I don't want to. I'm uncertain on the token price, right? Just kind of because of my general high time frame view, but I want to put this out there. I think there's a decent chance that Hyperliquid is mimicking something similar to what we saw with BNB during the last, actually during the last bear market, but I guess 2 bear markets ago, right? If you're going to look at price from like 2018 to 2020 on Binance, you can see obviously we had an extended accumulation range, and I wish I could be on camera because I just made quotation marks with my hand. But not Hyperliquid, but Binance BNB made a new high and then pulled back again before it ultimately had its super parabolic run up. I could see Hyperliquid being somewhere in there, maybe somewhere in like 2019, 2020. Obviously, these are all just like dubious speculations of mine, but
all right, so what are you talking about?
If you look at BNB from way back in the bear market before 2021. So if you
put on the daily, hold on.
So I'm almost asking myself, okay, is Hyperliquid about to do that thing where it runs up to its new high,
okay,
and then pulls back again? I don't know. I mean, I think this is probably my most optimistic outlook of Hyperliquid, given that I'm not really expecting it to go like parabolic price discovery, but I obviously think the product is a pretty exceptional one. And I want to see that $20 level broken as well.
This looks almost identical. Wow. That's a great fractal. How much higher did it go off the highs? Let's see.
I think it was like 70%-ish.
Not bad.
In that vicinity.
Like that.
So good upside from these levels if that's going to play out.
But
I think even if majors are going to range here for the next few weeks, you're going to have some altcoins that will likely begin new uptrends. And we have pointed a few of them out already on this show.
I kind of tend to think that hype will still see new lows.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm skeptical on my own thesis, I'll be honest. But I think if you break 20, you probably will make new highs on it.
Yeah. If we see a harsh rejection at 20, like that $19, $20 level, it's possible. Right? It's possible.
I agree. It would have to flip $20. Then that could start to get interesting. But until then, it's a daily bear market, even weekly sort of, and I would say you want to treat it as such. Although unless you have some insider info, from my point of view, but
so you're thinking like something like this, larger bottom.
Yeah, potentially something like that is from my point of view, most likely. Guys, there's something I want to touch upon that I was thinking about. We've seen few memes run again pretty hard from this bottom, which makes sense because they got like wrecked in the past months. But my thing, so we saw, you know, Fartcoin getting bit and SPX getting hit, and I suppose a few others too. I don't think this is a good thing. I mean, it's a good if it's always nice to have speculation, and we always had that, you know, and I think that's all right there. But I think we cannot have, you know, memes getting bid as first and strongest again. I do not think this is good for the longer term bull thesis, because what we need to see in the market is once again see utility stuff get bid first, and only then you want to see memes getting bid after as a you know, form of, hey, risk on is back on. We had that every time before, where, you know, in the past there was nothing but Doge as a meme, and we always had good times when stuff got bit, and then Doge got bit, but it was at the end, and it wasn't that Doge was bit first and then everything else ran after, right? So what do you guys make of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think there's going to be a select few memes that come back to life and still continue to do very well. But I do think a majority do not do as well.
I think that too. I'm only arguing about the timing.
Yeah,
here, like
it's like people haven't learned their lesson yet. It's
yes,
like
yeah.
Right,
the meetings will continue until morale improves.
It's like the market's just going back. It's like the kids going right back to the electrical socket after getting electrocuted. And
literally.
That's no, like, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
I still like my my crackhead reference, how the market's just like a crackhead that just wants another hit, but if it has another one, it might die.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Jackus. It is I don't think it, I still think the next bull market will probably be driven by like authentic utility, which
it must be.
It's easy for that to, or for like to laugh at that statement because it hasn't been respected this cycle. But I think we're both pretty similar in viewing the cycle that we've had thus far, very similar behaviorally to like an echo bubble, right? And coming out of that, we probably see a lot more adoption, authentic adoption, not just speculative claims of adoption, but real adoption, right? Like what products are TradFi going to actually want to build on? And that is truthfully going to be a very small subset of coins. Even though a lot of them claim they're going to be used by TradFi, it will be a small number. I think for me, you know, again, I'm viewing this rally as rented personally until proven otherwise. So I think alts have a lot of room here to run. It's like you said, meme coins have already responded in kind. They are the most beaten down. Therefore, I think it's an asset class with some of the best upside here, or rather a sector with some of the most upside here. But again, I'm still renting this rally with the expectation that at some point in 2025 we'll probably see lower prices.
Yeah.
Average Solana trencher.
I just generally think that like the reason we had such an underperformance so far from alts was really like the token dilution that we had, and that this cycle was different in a way where people have been bidding memes, which I think, you know, is just what the market wanted to do at the time. But I do not think we can run this market up anymore on people bidding memes. You know, I think it needs to be, and honestly, again, this is the same situation that stocks went through 100 years ago, when you know, people look at stocks and they thought, hey, all of them are worthless, all of them are memes, although they didn't use the word meme back then, but they thought about them that way. and they were underperforming against gold and against bonds back then, until the paradigm changed. And I still think this is what will eventually happen to this industry later on. And I still think it needs to get a bit on again on this stuff. I do not think personally we can have we can get a few random pumps, all right? But I do not think we can get a raging bull market all around. We cannot have a significant drop in Bitcoin dominance based on people bidding memes again. That's just what I think.
Yeah, well, the good thing is, I think those bidders for those tokens, those more utility type plays, the more older tokens that have lasted the test of time. I believe those bidders, if the people, at least the retail participants that we have in crypto now, if they're not going to be the ones that bid that stuff, I think we do have the bidders around the corner. Which is all of these ETFs that like every day there's a new ETF filed for, right? That I'm seeing. And I think, if your average crypto retail investor is not going to bid this stuff, I guarantee you Wall Street and those people will, right? So I could see a world where, we do see memes bounce, right? They are beaten down the worst, like Tommy said. So, bounce hard, right? But, I don't know if we see the same type of euphoria where, one token goes to a billion dollar market cap in like 2 or 3 days. I don't think we see that. I think we see some nice bounces off the lows. I think we see pullbacks from that. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these ETFs start going live over the next couple months, right? And I think that will put a nice bid under these, utility, quote unquote, utility cryptos, right? And I think once that bid comes into the market, you'll start to see that sector outperform greatly. And people are like, okay, like memes are great. There's going to be, there's always going to be some sort of meme, some sort of speculation in crypto, but these other cryptos like your XRPs, your Link, your BNB, your Souls, like if they get these ETFs filed and Wall Street is serious about buying this stuff, you're going to see a perpetual bid for these cryptos over a long period of time. So I think there's always a spot for those type of tokens in your portfolio, right? And that's how I look at it, right? I'm positioned in the XRPs and all, all of these utility type plays, but I also play in memes, right? So have exposure to both. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's, the dynamic switch once those ETF starts going live.
No, I totally agree. Like I have exposure to both too, right? Like after all, Pepe is still an amazing one to be in. But I mean, like what I'm trying to say is that it needs to be utility leading this space from here forward, not the other way around, which is what we saw in the past year, and we know what it led to. So I think that's sort of what I'm trying to say, right? I'm not saying not to have an exposure to memes. I'm just saying it should be utility that goes first, that leads it, and then that attracts speculation and gamblers that run it up. And I agree that there is lots of money to be made on those on the upside. I'm just debating the fact which ones should get bid as main things, because if memes get bid first again, that shows there is still money, in my opinion, that will still show there is still money on the table to get wrecked first, to take away from.
Yeah, I think people kind of misinterpret Jackus and I's stance as far as like our view on meme coins. It's not that we are inherently bearish on the sector, because I think it's inevitable that the memetics of internet culture continue to be tokenized on the blockchain, and that we can continue to speculate on them, because there's no other way that you can do that outside of crypto, which I think is ironically one of the coolest things that we can do. But it's like Jackus was saying, there is an order of operations here. And this cycle should be a great example of that. You know, we're viewing right now. I think the audience is viewing it from the lens of fundamentals to memes, but in reality, it's Bitcoin and ETH and Sol, or whatever the next major that, I mean, maybe Sol gets replaced next cycle, but Bitcoin and ETH mainly, they need to pump first. That wealth effect needs to then trickle down into altcoins, and that's where we get those epic alt seasons. It's not quite as much, well, you buy the meme because you know that people will eventually find it, simply because obviously Bitcoin and ETH will move higher, but you gotta, it's like you kind of gotta pay the you gotta pay for like the train ticket. You gotta buy Bitcoin and ETH, or at the very least have some exposure to them, because if they don't go up, you can't complain that they're not going up if you didn't buy them. That's just my stance.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's like expecting a sustained crypto bull run without having Bitcoin getting bid first. You know, like you can't have that. You don't have a leg to stand on. The proper flow should be Bitcoin, ETH, utility tokens, or your maters that have been around for a while, and then that wealth effect should transfer over to memes and stuff like that. I agree with that. It just hasn't been what we've been seeing, right? And maybe that's why we can't get off the damn floor. And can't get like sustained moves.
if you think about it with the dot-com bubble, right? What I'm saying is, you first get the effectivity growth. You know, you get stuff that gets bid because they actually create sites that are usable and so forth. Valuations get out of the hand, but it doesn't happen at first. It wasn't speculation leading it at first. It was an actual effectivity growth at first. And then it got, it got bit to the extreme by speculation, but that needs to come at the end of the cycle, not at the beginning. Because when it comes at the beginning, usually what you get is a prolonged, like either sideways or like higher time frame sideways, and so forth. So I think, again, I think the fundamental side from crypto, and we will obviously have to see it from the market, because even if you look back, you had lots of experts, like real experts at the time, who said, I have no idea how internet can be any valuable, how it can bring any revenue. And we look at it from today's lenses, and we have to laugh, because nowadays it makes so much sense. Like, after all, we are here streaming on the internet, right? Back then, it made no sense to lots of reasonable people. Just like nowadays, it makes no sense for lots of people to see any value coming from crypto, apart maybe from BTC right now. But those things change along the way. One of the things, again, that could do that, and we can speculate, the market will show it to us in the future. But one of the ways could be like tokenizing stuff and then making it very easily transferable between individuals, right? Like, if any of you, and anytime, I'm not sure how it is in your country, but transferring a car, ownership to a car or stuff like that, or real estate even, is super hard. And I'm not sure how technically all of these things get solved, but solving that would bring huge effectivity growth, in my opinion. And you want to see this pay, and I think we will see that in time. Not sure at what time it is, and I think it's totally fine, and I think it will happen, that it will bring speculation with it. I'm just like arguing for the fact that I think we cannot run up based on speculation and then having that effectivity growth complementing it. That's sort of what, like, I'm trying to argue for.
No, I think we've talked about how the tokenization of assets is, it has to be the ETH end game, or at the very least, it has to be the end game for any of these tokens or protocols attempting to become L1, L2, L3, whatever you want to label it, because it's going to have to enable that access to TradFi liquidity. like, why did altcoins underperform this cycle, or rather like thus far on a relative basis? Well, Jack, as you touched on one of the points, right? The fact that we have way more emissions since the last cycle, a lot of dilution. But at the same time, we haven't had quite as many on a relative basis things that have grown that hot ball of money that ultimately finds its way into altcoins. We've had a few things, certainly had a few things, but not anything to the degree of 2019, 2020, or even 2018. And obviously those were different, so I'm not just going to blindly compare the two, but I still think ultimately what this cycle is probably going to need is more time for that liquidity to eventually find its way in, more catalysts to find their way in, the tokenization of assets. I mean, like, think about it for a second. I mean, it's going to sound completely ridiculous, and it kind of is, but I do think at some point it probably, I mean, no reasonable person is going to be doing exactly this, but imagine like you could put your mortgage up as collateral, take out a loan, and then go like gamble on shitcoins or buy more ETH and Bitcoin. And it's never going to be that, well, it might be at some point that ridiculous, but we'll take a few steps to get there. But imagine, man, you take your mortgage, put it on Sui Lend, bridge it through Wormhole, and start buying shit on like Solana. It's so ridiculous for me to think about, but I do kind of think like that interconnectivity and bridging TradFi assets onto the blockchain is going to be kind of what creates that crypto super cycle. But it also will probably, introduce, our coins will help introduce a new level of systemic risk to TradFi assets as well, which I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how that all works out.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to that. Much better times. And we will look back and think, oh my God, do you remember those days in 2025 when literally everyone saw that it was over and nothing has any value? Do you remember?
I do. The financial nihilism narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's happening like this year, for the record.
Of
but
course.
I do think that we could get there here over the next like 5 to 10 years.
Well, and also the tough part to me is that it never happens over a single day. Like sometimes people think that this is going to be like nothing happens, and then one day and suddenly everything starts to have value. But it's more like very gradual. All of these things happen gradually, right? Like that narrative starts to slowly pick up, and it builds and graduates. Rather than like, hey, nothing has value, to, oh my God, everything has value suddenly. No.
Yeah, I mean, the rails are being put in place, guys. I mean, a big thing I think a lot of people missed a couple weeks ago, when all that crypto reserve, Bitcoin reserve nonsense was going around. Banks literally got the green light to custody crypto assets.
Yeah,
right? That is
big thing.
Huge. Like, that's massive. Right. And like, I don't think you're far off, Tommy. Like, eventually, I mean, it's going to start with Bitcoin. And I'm already starting to see this get approved, where you're going to be able to put your Bitcoin, let your bank hold it, and you're going to be able to borrow against it. Right. Just like any other asset in the world that you're able to do. That's how rich stay rich. Right. They buy assets, they collateralize those assets without having to sell them. So they save on taxes because they don't have to sell it. They get tax-free money from the bank. And they go out and they buy more assets. Like, It's coming for Bitcoin first. And then, the select few, right, altcoins, I think they're going to get the same treatment, right? And you're already getting a hint at what cryptos are going to be. Look at any of the cryptos that have gotten, more than 2 or 3 ETF filings over the last 6 to 8 months. Right?
I am just imagining the eventual systemic risk that will create, man. I'm just like laughing in my head about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's 100% like foolproof. Like, no, there's definitely people that will do stupid things and they'll win stupid prizes, right? But there are ways to do it, smart and intelligently, right? Like, but that's the future. That's where this is going, right? So, banks getting the green light to custody crypto, like that's insane. You don't see anyone talking about that because everyone was pissed that the U.S. government said they weren't going to be buying more Bitcoin right off the bat. Like people are missing the big picture, right? And again, it doesn't happen overnight. This is something that's going to happen over a series of years. But the way the Trump administration and the game theory starting to kick in, guys, like other world governments, not other like countries are starting to say that they're going to do the same thing that the U.S. is doing, right? It's game theory. They're not going to want to get left behind as the U.S. adopts this asset class.
I will say something I saw over the weekend that I hadn't really thought about, that I actually thought was a good point. And I think these are probably longer term themes rather than necessarily like 2025 themes. But I mean, the U.S. government now does have financial incentive to pump Bitcoin. It's not just because of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but also because Tether is becoming one of the largest buyers of U.S. debt. So, I mean, Tether obviously has a ton of Bitcoin. They're probably much more deeply ingrained within the crypto space than just owning the Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I'm sure there's some hidden DeFi leverage, Bitfinex, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, they do kind of have this financial incentive to pump it, maybe not to pump Bitcoin, but to at least ensure that it doesn't die, right? Because again, Tether holds, I'm not quite sure where they rank, but Tether is now one of the largest holders of US debt in the entire world, which is also just so funny to me.
and people think Tether's going anywhere. Like, read between the lines. They own so much US debt. Like, Tether's not going anywhere, guys. Like, it's not.
Good old Bitfinex. How's he doing? Somebody check on him.
How about Tesla?
Yeah,
let's look at some stocks and look at some cryptos.
Those were some good points you guys were making too.
How about this bounce on Tesla? We talked about, I think it was us three, was it last week? We were talking about this level. Nice bounce.
I'd love to see like $300 this week. Honestly, I think it's doable.
Oh yeah, that's totally doable. This is going to squeeze hard, right? And your bottom signal that you mentioned in the Discord call is absolutely 100% correct. I wanted to bid Tesla down here, but I've just been positioning and so much other stuff that I was fine not, right? But I expected some sort of reaction down here. Whether it lasts, we don't know, right? This could do this, start to lose this, come here, and then maybe start to put in a bottom. But it all depends, right? It all depends kind of, in my opinion, on what stocks do, right? Like seeing nice bounces across the board. But is this just a bounce, right? Is it a dead cat into a larger move, right? Is it something like this? Or, we're reclaiming key structure here, which is great. Or is this a move where we recapture, hold on to it, and the S&P goes back to doing what it always does, right? And I think that will give us good signal as to what the rest of the market's going to do, right? Like, are these dead cat bounces, or was this the sell-off? And did this mark the low? Like it has every other time we came into areas like this, right? 1, 2, had these marked. We're showing you guys this a couple weeks ago, right? Every time RSI on the daily comes this low, marks the bottom, right? Marks the bottom. But we got to hold on to the gains, right? So kind of watching the S&P, seeing how it reacts, seeing what it holds. Like the pumps are great, but what's even more important is what price, like what does it hold on to? Does it hold on to key market structure, or does it give it back up, right? Because then if it gives it back up, you're probably going to come a little lower, right? You're probably going to come a little lower. But we've also seen scenarios where S&P corrects, bounces hard, rolls over farther, but Bitcoin and crypto are way ahead and they continue to rally even when the S&P and equities roll back over. So are we going to see that? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm in the camp. I think we can see that scenario, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's important to, watch the equities, see where we hold on to, where price holds, and then go from there. But I do like that we're back above this level, right? I think that's a big level, but we also have a big level right above us, right? So probably see us squeeze into this area and then see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of rejection here, but if we can hold on to this red zone, I think we could start stair stepping. Right. So we will see. We will see.
I think for me, the way I'm viewing equities at the moment, I think one of the two of basically VIX futures or NVIDIA is going to have to give. And what I mean when I say that, what is going to propel equities to meaningful new highs, right? You're either going to have the driver of the bull market in tech, AI and NVIDIA, continue to rip to new highs, because in that case, then I think that obviously the NASDAQ is probably going to be making new highs as well. Or you need the short volatility trade, which is obviously a longer term catalyst for equity markets, historically speaking, move the market higher. And if you look at something like VIX futures, I've talked about this before. VIX futures are a great indication of a visualization of liquidity coming into equity markets, right? Are VIX futures breaking new lows? If not, if they're forming a bottom, it's going to be difficult for equities to rip higher just on the short volatility trade, right? But I think one of those two is going to have to give for the NASDAQ and for the S&P to be sending into new highs, like sustainably, right? Not just like a sweep of the highs because of a bull crush. But one of NVIDIA or one of VIX futures, I want to see one of those two things give out in order for me to be super bullish on equity markets again. But I will say, like, confluent with my opinion on things like Tesla, on things like altcoins, a bounce here makes a lot of sense to me. Even if we retest the lows again before, more meaningful upside, I think something like 5,900 on the S&P. And for QQQ, probably like 505, 510. Those levels make sense to be revisited here over the next few weeks.
I think the bounce is already playing all markets around pretty much right here. And with this VIX, it makes even more sense. Usually we know how it goes. First, the high caps, then it moves over to lower market caps, stocks and cryptos. I kind of think, again, that's all around playing out. I still think VIX is going to spike again, maybe not to new highs, but it's going to make some decent upside pretty soon. Yeah, something like that. And then could stay lower in this range as it is since August last year, pretty much. But I think this was potentially in for VIX.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, Tommy talked about a catalyst, that like what can drive the markets higher. And, I would say a lot of people, what Trump has been doing with the tariffs and all that stuff, everyone's bearish on it, right? But what if everything they're doing, adopting crypto and innovation in AI, right? Crypto, AI, adopting innovation, allowing that to thrive, bringing companies into the U.S. for the U.S. to lead, these sectors. What I think they've been doing, sure, it's called short-term pain, but I think that could spur a whole new, leg of innovations, more or less, because we've been seeing it in AI, but we haven't really seen it in crypto. Crypto has been literally fought tooth and nail by the government, right? And now that the government's flipping on a dime and allowing the crypto asset class to kind of setting it up to at least have a chance at spurring innovation and thriving, I think that could lead a whole new, leg of asset appreciation, right? And tariffs, right? Everyone's bearish on tariffs. But all it's really going to do is incentivize international companies to come to the U.S., right? And that's bullish for the U.S. stock market, in my opinion. Sure, short term, yeah, it might cause some, you're seeing the tariff war go back and forth. Yeah, sure, maybe short term prices go up, but eventually, we kind of hold a lot of the cards here as far as the U.S. So eventually, all this is going to incentivize companies to do is to do more business in the U.S., right? increase US GDP, increase US innovation, right? And I think that's long-term bullish. So short-term, we're seeing the effects of it, right? But what it really comes down to is this drop in the S&P, was this pricing in that short-term pain? And do we see this come out of here and be forward-looking to the next 6 months to a year and see it start to price in that potential bullish scenario where the U.S. starts to thrive again, increased GDP, increased jobs, all that type of stuff. And I think that's coming. Right? I really do think that's coming. And I am a little more optimistic than most on that. But I think long term it's the right thing to do, and I think it's going to spur that next leg of the market, right? But I think we see different sectors do well coming out of this, or at least do better, right? Like the S&P has been rallying for a long time off the lows in 2022, right? But you're looking at something like the Russell, one of the last major stock indices to that's still under the old all-time high from 2021, right? So, if we continue to see this, we continue to see the Fed maybe potentially start to embrace rate cuts or signal that they may. I think that sets up an extremely bullish environment for low cap stocks, right? Because rates coming down is bullish for these companies, for these lower cap companies that need to borrow money to kind of fuel their business. So I think it's coming out of this. I think we see everything do well. But I think there's certain sectors where you start to see profit rotation go from maybe the majors to maybe a sector like the Russell, right? I think that's very plausible and something that we see.
Yeah, again, lower interest rates are coming, likely end of QT, and easier regulation or regulatory conditions as well. And that trio is a perfect cocktail for low caps to run well, in my opinion. And that is coming this year.
Yeah.
I just keep going back to something we talked about, like back in 2023, how the next decade on was going to be very much a stock pickers environment. Even if it's not AI leading the way, like a year from now, it's going to be something, right? I mean, I feel like you can already kind of see the burgeoning narratives for something like humanoid robotics, and it will be inherently speculative, but there's probably going to be a lot of investment opportunity, whether that's through Tesla or other proxies. Yeah, I mean, I just think just kind of staying active and on your toes and not maybe like dying on we're seeing it in crypto, right? Like whatever the prevailing narrative is, even on something like Solana on chain, it's always changing. And the people who have been able to stay nimble have done really well over the last few years.
Humanoid robotics, big one, honestly.
Yeah.
I really think Tesla is going to be such a great play at some point this year. I'm not investing at these prices, but I do think I will be investing pretty heavily later this year.
I think so too. At some point, you said it well. I'm not sure yet that this is the point.
I want to see the Elon pendulum swing a little bit further back before I I get super bowled up on Tesla.
Yeah.
I do like his reclaim on video, though. Been talking about this reclaim as well. I think if we can continue to close and reclaim this rising trend, I see no reason why we can't start drifting back to the upside here. I don't know. We'll see, right? It's the start. But got a lot of work to do. But I do like this. I do like getting back above this this trend line. And realistically, if you do start to push and come up to here, revisit the highs, this is just a consolidation pattern within a longer term uptrend, right? And not distribution, right? So yeah, it looks pretty distributive. but you
Has
start
anyone
coming
looked
back
at
to the
Meta?
highs. What?
Has anybody been looking at Meta?
Yeah,
No.
occasionally I look at it. I mean, it's a very nicely bullish looking chart. I think the max it drops to is like 550, and then it likely continue higher up.
Yeah.
I think they're doing pretty decent job in because again, people will think of Meta and lots of people will just think Facebook. Oh, Facebook's dead, right? But it's more about like what they are doing with the VR stuff perhaps right now, or their AI mainly, and they still have a decent marketplace. It's not just Facebook, and the market is telling you that as well, that there is more to it than just Facebook.
I use Facebook Market, or rather my wife uses Facebook Marketplace for a lot of our furniture, so I can attest to that.
Yeah, Facebook's also like Instagram too, like
Indeed.
a lot of people in our generation use Instagram. I use Instagram. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, and this is what I mean by profit rotation. Like I could see a scenario where, these Mag 7 stocks, or at least some of them, continue to pull back and consolidate. But I think we do see other sectors start to take the lead, right? I think there's a big catch-up trade to be made in the low-cap stocks. I think AI continues to do well. And I think crypto-based stocks continue to do very well. Like MicroStrategy trying to break out, right? Trying to go for a breakout here.
I added more during this dip.
Yeah.
I still have my big bull thesis on it, and I do not care about any bears who are telling me how MicroStrategy is over.
Yeah.
Could be, but price needs to show that. And what I'm seeing is exactly what you pointed out. Breakaway gap right now, and once again it's leading BTC, not the other way around. So and just there is this like perfect, it's sort of like Luna, not gonna lie, and I know it's going to pop up at some point, but as of right now it still works. People will bid MSTR as a higher beta to BTC, but then Saylor goes on and buys more BTC, so it's just a perpetual mobile,
We were talking about this on Friday.
We were. I really think it will get like insanely more absurd before MSTR is stopped.
Yeah.
Like people spoken about speculation, or we have spoken about speculation at the beginning of the show. I think while the speculation is there, it hasn't gone crazy yet on the MSTR from TradFi.
Yeah. Yeah. The move we're seeing on MicroStrategy is telling me that Bitcoin's coming up here at a minimum. And MicroStrategy recaptured its structure and is now starting to push higher into this, this upper range. So I think we continue to see Bitcoin follow MicroStrategy. And, Bitcoin gets back inside its lower range here and reestablishes it, reclaims it. I see no reason why Bitcoin doesn't come back up here, guys. Right? As long as MicroStrategy continues to hold this and climb. So I think crypto stocks are going to be one of those sectors where you start to lead coming out of this correction we've seen in equities. And also obviously crypto and altcoins themselves, right? The inherent assets. Another thing I'm noticing, like miners, Bitcoin miners, something like Mara up 15% today. Like that's a bullish sign for crypto stocks, right? Or in Bitcoin inherently. And a lot of these stocks are leading off the lows today. Mara, big move. Coinbase, decent move today, right? Have work to do. But these stocks have a lot of room to run if they could start recapturing key levels. And this is a lot of stuff that I've been buying over the last couple of weeks. I think we see these stocks take the lead, And I think crypto asset class as a whole follows, right? And I think we see, that the last leg, or where altcoins really start to rally, right? Including ETH. So.
We did get a super chat. I want to acknowledge Guacamole. I think Wabi's actually been buying stuff. I haven't checked his channel yet, but I will say I am kind of in agreement with Wabi's high time frame outlook as a whole. But we appreciate every super chat. Thank you, Guacamole. Very tasty nickname as well.
Sometimes it's fun to come to the chat, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
What else you want to look at?
Let me see. Let's see what is worth looking at.
What do you guys think of GME?
I honestly haven't been looking at it.
Well, from what I know, Charles Schwab has been accumulating GME.
Really?
And I remember they've been accumulating MSTR in 2022. Not saying GME, not saying Charles Schwab was, but Fidelity, for example, increased its exposure to MSTR during 2022 at the lows by like 45,000%. 45,000%, I repeat. I suppose most people didn't hear that. So I think this one is primed to run. And when we do, that's the alt season.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
How correlated is something like this to XRP? Obviously, XRP is outperforming it, but I have to imagine the same crowd is buying GME that's buying XRP.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're correlated in the sense that low cap stocks running is pretty much a signal for crypto and the altcoins to run as well. That's kind of what I'm expecting to see coming out of this. And that's how I'm positioned. But yeah, XRP started to perk up a little bit down here, trying to break out. Refused to break down over the last month and a half. People took that as a sign of it's being a laggard. I take it as a sign that it's showing strength and it's getting bid up here for a reason, right? So, one of those cryptos that I think it has the most ETF filings. I think it has like 17 ETF filings across the board. Like, that's insane.
It's a matter of time waiting for the right condition. You know it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
When it's ready, we cannot wait any longer. Flip the switch.
Yeah. Yeah.
XRP looks really good here. I'm not gonna lie. I can't bring myself to bid it. I'd rather just bid the underperformer that Jackus hates, which is Litecoin.
Oh my god! Why? Like, are you a masochist, Tommy?
Few months, brother.
But so is XRP, man.
Well, why would you long the alpha when you can long the laggard?
And cry later, I know. Oh man, no. If you wanna bid a beta, I would bid at least like Stellar or H bar in that sense. But as I always said, I will bid alpha because I think alphas need to go first, and then there is that rotational play.
Big dog eats first.
We'll see. I always say it's good to have ratio exposure to all. If you have enough energy to position yourself that way and be able to manage all of these positions. But let's keep in mind that XRP is really one of the only coins that hasn't broken its structure yet. And people are still hating on it, still trying to revenge short it down because it has to go down. It has no value. I hate it for missing this pump. It has to come down. I like it. And I think that's the bullish case for it. I feel nothing towards XRP. I just like how it was a good opportunity to buy end of 2024. Then it's a good opportunity still here for further continuation. Like there are a few times it's worth playing some stuff. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it only works partially and then it doesn't follow through. You need to take action on it. But what most people do is that they will like it at some point, they will buy it. And sometimes it plays out. They never take profits, write it back down, or it works only partially, and then they stay in it. It goes way below their entry because they failed to make action, and then they hold it through years. They get absolutely tired of it. They start hating on it because it didn't deliver. Then they sell it, and they're perma haters on it. And that's the nature of
the nature of our game.
There are lots of BTC haters this way who were early on BTC in 2014, and they sold it at $200, $300 even, and they can never buy back in, and they hate on BTC nowadays. It's just what it is.
I'm going to give a prediction here. I'll bet you that, guys, that XRP flips ETH this year. Probably within the next 2 months. And if that happens, I am exiting all markets.
I think it already has a little bit now.
I mean, on circulating market cap, not FDV. I think it will flip ETH, and I will be exiting probably everything if that happens.
I don't think it has flipped yet ETH this cycle.
FDV it has, not circulating.
Yeah.
That is my dubious speculation for today.
I still think, I've been saying that I think way before that I think XRP flips ETH this cycle. But I sort of expected at first that it would happen on both going up and XRP just going up more. And right now it more seems like XRP will only flip it by staying where it is. Well, ETH bleeds down. But now, to be fair, as of right now, when I'm looking at the market caps, XRP would have to go to like $3.5, which is under the circumstance that ETH doesn't move, of course, where they are right now.
It's astrologically destined to flip ETH in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, looking at XRP ETH, like this has just been in a massive expansion. So I think at least in the short term, you could see ETH take back some dominance. Just looking at where the charts are at. Doesn't mean I think XRP still does very well, but I think there's a big catch-up trade for ETH. And probably see a local top here, XRP ETH, but probably holds up. And then maybe towards the end of the cycle, you start to see XRP ETH outperform again, maybe come up to this level, and then we go from there. But I would see coming out of this, I could definitely see ETH starting to outperform and take some dominance back, as well as Bitcoin. I think ETH coming out of this is going to start taking back some dominance from Bitcoin as well. Doesn't look like it. We've been trying to get the bottom on ETH BTC forever, so I'm not going to try to call the bottom. But I think at some point, ETH really does start taking the dominance back, and that will be great for altcoins. I think that's the environment we're coming into next. Very similar to what I'm saying about equities. We're seeing the S&P, the NASDAQ, big sell-offs in the Mag 7, while, lower cap stocks are all sitting on the floor at value. right? So kind of in that same idea, right? I think we see the same thing happen in crypto. I think we see the same thing happen in crypto. So
I kinda, just to briefly share a screen here, with the market caps, which I found to be interesting. If we look at it from the lenses of the 2017 cycle, which really was sort of the adoption one, then we see that XRP is still slightly lagging XRP. Sorry, XRP is lagging ETH, but not by much, where XRP is currently, somewhere around like right here compared, to the highs where it's trading. Market cap wise, this isn't USD price. So market cap wise, it's trading around its 2017 all-time high, slightly higher. So it has caught up on that upside because we know it's been lagging due to the SEC case crippling it, for the past 4 years. I think that is coming to its end now. It was really right here when that case dropped. Again, XRP was going first. I think the bull case for both here is try to view it as likely both are to continue, whatever happens here, higher, and you will see them go like this together, potentially.
yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't think I think in order for this to go down, you would need ETH to go down here too, basically.
It feels like XRP is kind of benefiting from the same effect that BNB is benefiting from, like, all the time, right? Where you probably have a huge percentage of the supply still concentrated in the hands of a very small number of people.
That is true as well. Like, let's not pretend this isn't about crime.
Especially given how long it traded at the lows. I mean, I'm sure that supply is heavily concentrated, even though XRP gives the vibes of like a retail coin.
It's kind of insane how much of a retail support it has, right? Considering how institutional coin that is.
It's just so funny to see XRP outperform ETH this cycle.
Well, it has always outperformed it. So,
except last cycle, that was the only
except
time.
yeah, that was due to the SEC case, because as you can see, it started as a dodge pretty much. This cycle, it started to go, but then SEC case happened, and that muted, the entirety of the cycle. It just had a little bit of push through. I think now this upside has merely been compensating for the past 4 years, pretty much.
I wonder if, I don't know well enough to speculate on it, if this money is just going to like slosh back and forth between these two coins.
I still kind of tend to think we are here, guys, on XRP. Something like that,
Jeez.
But obviously, this can get way longer, so you need to be ready for it too. In case you spend, like the next even 3 months here, could happen. Not saying it will, but could. And then you're gonna get that final leg through. I do not think you're getting 589, but
That's not what the influencer told me, Jackass. You're not bullish enough.
You're not bullish enough. But realistically, again, the right curve take has been to be long, stay long, but do not be, do not fade it, but do not overhold it.
Almost wonder if XRP is doing something kind of like what BNB did in 2021. What do you think of that comparison, Jackus?
BNB in 2021
or 2020, like right before it had that second extension out of the bear market accumulation.
Oh, MSTR's pumping. Oh no, it's just the line. But it is looking nice. Let's be honest.
You're gonna make me long some XRP. Why are you like this, Jackus?
I'm gonna make you long some MSTR, man.
I don't know about that one. Probably not.
Come
I'll
on.
just have to coat from the sidelines on that one.
You will go big time, man.
The Copor.
The Copor.
You said BNB.
Yeah, look at that last leg up it had in 2021. So after that, we had
This
the big
one?
above that.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, it could be only under the circumstance where it was like super way higher, right? But I get it, what you mean.
I mean, this is kind of always in my thought process on it, but XRP is going to do what all the like the majors did last cycle that it didn't get to do, right? So compare it to a move like ETH did, compare it to a move like BNB did. I think this time around it's going to do the move it should have did last cycle, right? So I think that's kind of exactly where we are. If you want to compare it to BNB, maybe even lower.
God, I'm about to punt an XRP long at some point over the next few weeks. I hate what you have done to me, Jackus.
Well, you're welcome. My exit liquidity. Just kidding. Oh no, we have no volume to be anyone's exit liquidity on XRP, man.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that XRP tends to have its biggest price appreciations when Venus is transiting Aries?
When is that?
Right now.
Oh,
nice. Yeah. This has another leg brewing.
I think so, but I think it's not coming as soon as people think. I think we can easily gonna get another rejection here, make it scary. Then it's coming. Not sure exactly when. I'm totally fine with it, but I think lots of people won't. I don't know, man. Like if you look at this chart, right? Yeah. Yeah.
God. The log on that just looks so insane. Oh my God. The fact that they didn't give, I'm sure that it was just like the same people accumulating it for that whole period back in 2014 to 2017, and then they just annihilated retail in 2018.
Indeed. Crazy, man. Like, look at this, right? You get the sell-off, and then you get all of these before you run again. Could very well be here. Like, you get the sell-off below the low. Like here, you are sort of in this first bounce, maybe, sort of ish. Can happen, doesn't have to happen, but very likely to continue further.
I think so.
At some point,
It's kind of a disgusting thought, but it is what it is.
$12.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of, and I know this will happen, right, is good chances you are getting this, but then people will be waiting for like something like completely nuts, and
Yeah.
they will not sell.
Yeah.
And potentially this is future bear market low. You know, something like this.
Yeah.
$20.
This is just, you know, this was a random line. I honestly have enough respect from the market not trying to call the top. You know, I think everyone's like, the top's coming at $17 or 37 or 157.70. You know, will come when it wants to. You can use some feedback extension, all of that, but it will depend also on much more variety of stuff.
I don't know how you guys feel about this opinion, but I always feel like I have a much higher hit rate on selling the top when I'm not trying to call one on the run.
Exactly.
I think you can just kind of feel it out organically.
Yeah, because I think, you know, what's the reason? You usually have a top, and then if it's, let's say it's, you know, you would have, for example, 5, right? Price comes to it, but you look at everything else and it looks bullish. So you instead postpone the target, right? And then you do not sell, or you have the target absolutely out of the world. So you would have something like 100 XRP, and then the price comes to like 10, and you'd start to see signs, but you would be like, no, it's surely coming to 100, and then it doesn't, and you don't sell, which was sort of the case for Bitcoin last cycle, when people basically you know, waited for the 100K mark, at least didn't come, and you know, in hindsight it was surely there, but lots of people didn't want to see that because they really just saw that it must be higher. And as you said, Tommy, you know, if you do not have that target in mind and you just approach the market for what it is at the time, and I know that, do you know what's the tough part about this? This is not how social media work. So it forces you to have the target. People want it, right? They want that entry, TP, stop loss, and leverage. Please fill in those. I do not want to do
how much
any work.
leverage can I long with so that I don't get liquidated?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like they do not even want to put in the work to keep being active in the market and observing it. They just want to like buy and then tell me when the market's going to top. I'll come in 2 years and become rich and buy Lambo.
Oh, this really is such a market of greed, but it pays to be greedy at the right times.
I would agree with the fact that we are in an 8-year cycle, sort of, because even if you look at stuff like BTC versus M1 money supply, then you are going to realize that we really had no cycle since 2017, right? So I would tend to think so. I would tend to think that this is the first cycle since 2017 when we are getting real adoption. Because I think the past one was really just money printing, you know, QE and stuff. Whereas this one, you are getting like, and you know, not just on this chart you can see it, but you can also feel it, and you can see it in you know, all of those ETFs. Like that's adoption, if there is ever one. Gee, this is the most bearish bull I have ever heard. That's a good take, man. Bearish bull. Sir, I would say a reasonable one. I hate it. I love him so much. Just reasonable approach, man. The market will force you that way. Anyways, 1 hour and 30 minutes just now. This is a good spot to wrap it up, Tommy. What say you?
I agree. I think that was a killer cook sesh from the squad today. Thank you, everybody who gave some thoughts on the panel. And of course, thank you to the audience, as always, for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show today, if you liked what you heard, maybe you're interested in learning more, hearing more from the team, we do have a few offerings for you guys to potentially be able to take advantage of, right? Starting with, like I said, if you are interested in hearing more from the team, whether that be analysis, market thoughts in real time, or even positioning, we have our premium Discord, guys. Come join us. We have a kick-ass community as well, who are also serving up some killer on-chain plays pretty much on the regular. So check that out. We were nice enough to package this together at a discounted rate with your go-to tool for this cycle, which is the BB terminal. Sorry, my cat's running around. He's got the zoomies. He's cracking me up right now. But yeah, if you are whether or not you're an active trader on lower time frames, you've been capitalizing on this volatility that we've had here. Maybe not as much over the last 2 weeks, but really over the last 3 or 4 months. Maybe you are and more of a long-term investor, a bettor on the fundamentals or prospects of certain crypto projects. We have the tool for you, and soon we will also have the tool for you on-chain degens, the deck screener degens, my Solana Trench Warriors, you name it. Can't wait to roll out our degen feature as well for you guys. So soon we will have a go-to tool for every sort of participant in crypto, but right now we have quite a bit of functionality already built out on it. So come take advantage of it at these current prices, guys. Additionally, if you are interested in learning more from the team, maybe not in the Discord, but in a more structured fashion, we also have the BB Academy. We spent a lot of work on that. We built out a lot of different what's the word? I'm having a bit of a brain fart at the moment, but there's a lot of optionality with the BB Academy, guys. If you want to learn from the team how we analyze markets, how we approach markets, how we approach our technical analysis, and everything in between, we've got an educational tool for you as well. So check that out. And last but certainly not least, maybe the local volatility is getting to you. I mean, I've heard a lot of people tell me, both on a personal level and then I've seen it publicly, I can't wait to get out of the crypto market, right? I can't wait to sell my crypto and never come back. I can't blame you. It's a very difficult market at times, especially over the last year and a half, right? So if you're looking for somebody to potentially take that burden off your shoulders, we have an option for you as well. We have an SEC registered hedge fund, BB Wealth Management, where we manage digital assets in a way that looks to capture their asymmetric history for upside returns while also balancing the downside risks posed in any financial market. So check out all of that in the description below. If anything that I just said over the last 90 seconds resonated with you, that is where you will find links. But yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back for another episode of Market Check tomorrow. Our typical start time is around 11 to 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard, and we are live usually for about an hour to an hour and a half. But yeah, we hope that you enjoyed the show today. Make sure to tune in as well to Market Talk with King Wabi. That is a Spaces hosted through our X account as well as Wabi's account. So make sure to stay followed and subscribed to both of those accounts so you can be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but of course also when we go live. But yeah, guys, we hope that you enjoyed the show once again. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow for another episode. But until then, thank you again. And of course, stay safe, guys.